Good morning, my name's Rob and I'll be your trainer today. I'm going to demonstrate a pre-trip inspection on a 2020 Thomas Freightliner. Now, ask your trainer if this video matches your training. There's 100 different ways to do a pre-trip inspection. Everybody does it differently. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to start on the outside. Normally, of course, you want to start on the inside. You're going to want to put your stuff away, and the very first, most important thing is to check to make sure your bus starts. You're probably asking me why I'm holding a yardstick. For your inspection, when you get down there to the DMV, you need to point to or touch every item you're talking about. So I've already checked in with the office. I've got my driver's license, I've got my learner's permit, I've got my medical card. I'm wearing my safety vest. I've checked in with my registration and my proof of insurance. The person driving you down also needs to bring all these items, make sure of it. All right, let's get started. So as I approach the vehicle, I'm making sure that it's not leaning left or right, which could indicate a flat tire or a suspension issue. I'm looking underneath my bus, making sure that there's nothing hanging, there's no puddles indicating a leak. I'm coming up to the top. I'm going to check my clearance lights. The 3 ambers under the antenna. In my 8-way student load lights, I have 2 ambers, 2 front, 2 reds on the front, 2 ambers, 2 reds on the back. They're all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. My bus is labeled with school bus and it's 8 inches wide. My bus is National School Bus yellow and black. I'm checking my windshield, making sure that it's clean, clear, not cracked or damaged. I have my annual and my biannual inspection stickers. I'm coming around. I'm going to check my mirrors and my brackets, making sure all hardware is in place. My fender directional is clean, clear, not cracked or broken. Again, my crossover mirror, the bracket's secured. The lens is clean, clear, not cracked or broken. My wire isn't burned, broken, or frayed for the heater. I'm checking again my bracket. I'm making sure that my crossover mirror is clean and clear, not cracked or broken. The drain hole is facing the bottom, and my wire is not burned, broken, or frayed. Again, my fender directional is clean, clear, not cracked or broken. And my side mirrors are clean, clear, not cracked or broken, and the bracket is secured. Coming around to the front, I'm checking my headlights, making sure that the lenses are clean, clear, not cracked or broken. I'm checking my crossing arm, making sure that it extends and retracts freely. I'm pulling on my bumper in 3 places, making sure that it's secured. My license plate is secured and it matches the back. Opening the hood. I'm checking my windshield wiper, making sure that it has proper tension. The rubber isn't frayed, and the hose line is secured, it isn't dry rotted, and isn't leaking. My firewall seal appears secured and is not dry rotted. My wiper linkage and wiper motor is secured. My treadle valve is secured. The air lines coming from it are properly bundled, they're not dry rotted. I'm listening for any audible leaks. I'm checking my wires. I'm making sure that there's no wires that are burned, broken, or frayed. I'm checking to make sure that they're properly bundled, there's nothing rubbing, and that they're properly encased. Coming down to my transmission fluid, I can pull this out by turning it righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's a cork type cap. I'm going to pull it out. It's about 4 feet long. I'm going to clean it off. I'm going to put it back in. I'm going to double dip it. I'm going to pull it out. It should be between hot and cold. My oil level is good. I'm going to turn it to the left. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to clean it. I'm going to put it back in. I'm going to double dip it. I'm going to pull it back out. It should be between add and full. So between hot and cold and between add and full. I'm coming down to my steering arm. I can twist this to make sure that it has no more than 10 degrees play. I can also turn my steering wheel, making sure that it has no more than 2 inches of play. I did say 10 degrees on that, did I? Okay. Coming down to my upper U-joints, making sure that they appear secured. My steering box is secured. All the hardware is in place and it's not leaking. My power steering reservoir, the cap is secured. The hose isn't leaking, and that it's at proper level. I can use a flashlight to get a really good look at that. Coming down to my pitman arm, it's secured to my drag link, which is secured to the steering knuckle with a castle nut and cotter pin on each side of the drag link. My shock absorber is secured. It's not leaking, and my frame appears secured. There's no excessive corrosion. It's straight, and there's no illegal welds. Coming down to my leaf springs, front hanger, and rear shackle there in the back, I'm making sure that my front hanger and rear shackle appear secured. My leaf springs are secured to the axle by 2 U-bolts, and my leaf springs aren't shifting or scissoring. There's no missing pieces or gaps. My axle and my tie rod, if you can see it back here, the round one behind it, they appear secured. Coming over to my brake system, my ABS hose line, which is air coming through here, and my wire. My hose isn't dry rotted. I'm listening for any audible leaks. My wire isn't burned, broken, or frayed. Everything's properly bundled and nothing is rubbing. My air canister appears secured. My slack adjuster appears secured with a bolt and a cotter pin, and it has no more than 1 inch of play. Coming into my brake system, let's see if I can point at the right thing here. My brake pads have more than 1/4 inch of thickness. Very important. I'm looking to make sure that there's no bluing, which could indicate overheating, and I'm making sure there's no dirt, oil, sludge, or other contaminants. I'm checking to make sure my tire is properly beaded to the rim, and I'm checking my rim, making sure there are no welds. I'm coming around to the side of my tire wall. I'm making sure that there's no bulges, there's no bubbling, there's no fibers showing, tears or cuts. Coming across to the top of the tire, I can rub my hand across it. It's evenly worn. It has more than 4/32 tread depth on the front. The rear tires need 2/32 tread depth. The front tires cannot be retreaded or regrooved. The rear tires can be retreaded or regrooved. My valve stem, it's straight, it's not leaking. It uses a push style to check the air pressure on the front, a push-pull on the 4 rear tires. My pressure should be between 90 and 110, which is indicated on a sticker above my door and also next to my door of the proper tire pressure. Coming around to the tire wall, I'm making sure that there are no fibers showing. There's no tears, cuts, or bubbling or bulges. It's properly beaded to the rim. I'm looking through my view holes. There's no dirt, oil, sludge, or other contaminants. And there's no bluing, which can indicate overheating. I'm checking my lug nuts. I can rub my finger in the dust to make sure that they're all tight. There's no shiny flakes. There's no rust trails. There's no signs of elongation. Coming down to my hubcap, all my bolts are secured. And my hubcap seal is secured. If this was leaking, there's some grease that will come out of there, and it's going to smell really awful, so I can also smell for anything that's leaking. I could check the cap, making sure that it's not dry rotted. The wheel bearing is in here. If that starts drying out, you're talking about $10,000 worth of damage. I'm checking my hubcap, my mud flap, making sure that it's secured. Coming around back to the engine, I apologize. I forgot to mention that my fuel filter is secured and is not leaking, and my water separator, my fuel water separator, is not leaking. It appears secured. Coming around to the other side, Again, I'm making sure that my windshield wiper has proper tension. The rubber isn't dry rotted. My hose isn't leaking. I can check my firewall seal, making sure that it's intact and secured and isn't dry rotted. My coolant reservoir is secured. It's not leaking. The cap is on tight and it's at a proper level. My hoses are secured. There's nothing rubbing. There's no leaks. My serpentine belt, it has no more than 3/4 of an inch of play, and it appears secured, and there's no tears in it or anything like that. My alternator appears secured. My oil filter, so we've got the 2 fuel filters on the other side, and now we've got our oil filter on this side. It's secured and isn't leaking. My intercooler pipes and my filter aren't blocked, which would be indicated by a red, I guess you'd call it a poppet, blocking this glass right here that would indicate that it's clogged. I can also stick my hand in here, making sure no mice have found a home. My frame is straight, there's no illegal welds, and there's no excessive corrosion. My windshield wiper fluid reservoir, the cap is secured, it's at a proper level. My wire and my hoses are secured, nothing's rubbing, everything's properly bundled. A recap from the other side, my front hanger and my rear shackle appear secured. My leaf spring appears secure, there's no missing pieces. It's secured to the axle with 2 U-bolts. There's no shifting, scissoring, or gaps between it. And because I moved my tire over to the other side, I don't have to mention this tire. So let's go back around. You may have noticed that I'm leaving my other clamp loose over there. So I'm checking all my windows. They're all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. I'm coming down to my battery compartment. I can turn these to drain any water that might be in my air system. I'm checking my battery terminals, making sure there's no corrosion. I'm checking my batteries, making sure that they're not bulging, they're not leaking. This is going to be a tough one to kind of see, but if you look back behind the battery compartment, through this little tiny crack right here, you can see the frame. My frame and cross members, they appear secured. There's no illegal welds, they're straight. I can check my floor a little bit from this angle, making sure there's no holes in the floor. I can check my drive shaft and the hangers, making sure that they're straight, everything appears secured, and that my air dryer, air heater, or whatever you want to call it there, appears secured, and I'm listening for any air leaks. Checking my stop sign, my 4 lenses are clean, clear, not cracked or broken. My wires are all secure, they're not burned, broken, or frayed, and they're not rubbing. And the sign pulls out and it retracts freely. So checking this side of my bus, I can stand back to get a better look at it. I have 2 emergency exits on this side, 2 on the other side. They're properly labeled and with reflector tape. All my rub rails appear secured. My front clearance lights, I have 2 ambers. I have a rear red clearance light. I've got 2 amber directionals on this side. I've got an amber reflector and a red reflector. They're all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. Now I've already talked about the rear tires when I mentioned the 3 differences in the front. Remember, the rear tires, they can be retreaded or regrooved, which is what this is right here. This extra bubble, these tires have been retreaded. The rear tires need 2/32 tread depth, the front tires need 4/32, and the rear tires have a push-pull valve system where you pull for the front valve and you push it for the rear valve. the inside valve, and that's the only difference, just those three. If you mention those three differences at the state of the front tire, you don't need to mention your rear tire again. My diesel tank, the cap is secured with a lanyard, and the seal is intact. If this gasket wasn't intact, or maybe it was dry rotted, a lot of times you'll see fuel spilling out the side of it. When you go around corners and stuff like that, and the fuel is splashing around. Coming to the back of the bus. Again, I've got my clearance lights, my 8-way student loading lights. I have 2 reds on the front, 2 reds on the back. I have 2 ambers on the front, 2 ambers on the back. They're all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. School bus is properly labeled and at 8 inches. All my windows up here secured. They're clean, clear, not cracked or broken. I've got my 2 directionals and hazards. I've got 4 brake lights. I have my reverse lights, 2 reverse lights, and I have my license plate lights and my reflectors. They're all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. Opening the door, I'm making sure that it locks into place. I'm checking the seal, making sure that it's not dry rotted and it's secured. I'm looking down the aisle. I'm making sure that there are no tripping hazards or lost items. This is a good thing to do on post trips also, because you can get a really good look down here for that doing your child checks. Looking under the bus, I can see that there's nothing stuck in between my tires. You really want to avoid those construction zones out there, because if you run over a cone and they get stuck between your tires, the chances are pretty good that they're going to have to pull these tires off to get it out. My tires are evenly spaced from each other. From here, I can get a really good look at my frame and my cross members. They're straight. There's no excessive corrosion. There's no illegal welds. My fuel tank appears secured and isn't leaking, and my crash cage appears secured. My exhaust has no excessive corrosion. There's no holes in it, and it sticks out no further than 1 inch from the bumper. I've already talked about the brake system down there. So come on over to this side. I've already talked about everything, right? The only difference is that I have no standees. My bus is properly labeled. I have student capacity, and I have my DOT number. Okay. Now, the reason why I left this one unsecured is just to kind of remind myself that I need to check this DEF cap, because at the beginning of the pre-trip inspection, we're always going to start at the top and work our way to the bottom. Side to side, however you want to do it, you just make sure you do it the same way every day, and then we won't forget anything. So same as the fuel cap, I'm going to open it. I'm going to make sure that the cap is secured with a lanyard. I'm going to twist off the cap, and then my gasket up here is secured. It's not dry rotted, and I can check my reservoir, making sure that it's not leaking by looking at the ground and on the inside. Everything appears secured. Let's go head on inside the bus. I'm checking my door, making sure that the linkage is secured, nothing's loose. I'm checking to make sure my seals aren't dry rotted. My glass is all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. I'm checking my handrails, making sure they're secured. Now, the more you touch things, the more your examiner down there at the state is going to say, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about, you know, and the more you talk about things, the better it will be for you. Don't give them the chance to start questioning you, to ask questions. So I'm checking to make sure my steps are all secured and don't pose any kind of a tripping hazard. Very important one a lot of people miss is the loading light. It's secured and it's the proper color, and we're going to check to make sure that it's operational here in a couple minutes. Coming around to my emergency gear, I'm checking to make sure that my body fluid kit and my first aid kit are secured, and there's a zip tie on each one of them indicating that they're full. I'm checking my 3 emergency triangles are in the box, and my 5-pound ABC dry chemical fire extinguisher is installed in the manufacturer's bracket. It's within 1 year of the date on the tag, and then it's within the green indicating that it is serviced. Got that? 5-pound ABC dry chemical type fire extinguisher. I've got my tire pressure gauge. So again, you push it and you pull it and it pops, and it's going to tell you it should be between 90 and 110 as indicated by the sticker above my windshield, and it's also on a little sticker right here between the mirrors. I have my depth gauge. So all I need to do is push this to the inside grooves. So I have 2 of them, so I'm going to check this twice. Push it down, pull it out, and you're not going to be able to see this on camera, but it's going to tell you right there I have 9:30 seconds, so I am plenty of groove. And very important one that a lot of people miss, I have my spare fuses. You're going to want to pull this out of the bag and show your examiner that you have them. And I also have spare fuses underneath my glove box. Coming into the bus, I'm going to take my key that's been in my pocket, and I'm going to put it into accessory. 3 points contact, hold, look, land. Come on in. Oh, don't want music. YouTube will shut off all the volume. Alright, so I'm going to check my seats, making sure that my bottoms are secured. The kids are also going to let you know about that, believe me, because they'll be jumping up and down and squeaking on you. And I'm checking my tops, which also hold the seat to the floor, making sure that they're secured. So I'm just giving it a quick tug, a push and a pull. And I can check all those. For the examiner, you're probably just going to check 2 or 3. I'm checking to make sure that my student monitoring devices, my 3 cameras on this bus, they're all clean, clear, not cracked or broken. They're secured, and they're pointed in a way that is useful. Coming to the back of the bus. Now I've already checked my emergency door, but now I want to make sure that the alarm also sounds. Very important. Don't allow your kindergartners to sit in the back, because they'll be standing here, and guess what they're going to use to hold them standing up. So my alarm sounds, and I like to not let the kids know about that alarm when I do bus evacuation drills, so that I know when they open my doors. My head bumper's secured. Coming back up, again, I'm making sure there are no tripping hazards. I'm checking my emergency windows, making sure that they open freely by pulling up on the lever, opening, closing. My alarm sounds, I'm good. My top roof hatches, in order to open these, you need to open them fully like that. You turn this knob to exit, and now I'm going to push up on this with it pointed in exit, and the door is going to flap open towards the front. To get it back in, it's pretty difficult. There's a clip, but I have 2 little holes right here that will help me, and I can use my thumbs on this round bracket, if you can see it, to help me guide it back into the clips. And the door itself has these little handles on the side that help you open and close the door. You can use these for vents, but you never want it fully open. You want it slanted back, and so debris, tree branches aren't flying into the kids' faces, bugs, etc. So there it is. Now I'm going to use these 2 holes on the side. I'm going to get it back into that clip. And I'm going to turn it back to latched and angle it backwards so there's no debris flying in people's faces. Coming to the front of the bus. I'm sitting down and I'm making sure that my seat belt snaps so it locks into place. I'm going to go ahead and put that on whenever I'm in the driver's seat, unless I'm on my phone, in which case I'll turn to the side, leave my seat belt off, making sure that I'm not in the background of anybody's pictures like I'm driving a bus with my phone in my hand or a newspaper. So now I'm going to check my heaters. I'm going to start on this side and I'm going to work my way around. I'm checking my step heater. I can hear it. I'm checking my aft heater. I can hear it. I'm checking my forward heater. I can hear it. My lights I'm going to check later. My heater pump and mirror heat I can't check yet until the bus has been running for a while. But I'm going to check my defrost fans, making sure that they both turn on. I'm going to check my windshield wipers, making sure that they work again and that the windshield wiper fluid works by pushing it on the button. The next thing I'm going to check is my defroster heater. I'm going to turn it on, and I can stick my hand above it to make sure that there's air blowing through it. So at some point what I want to do, it doesn't matter when, but I want to check my dash lights. I'm going to switch the key to run, and all my lights should light up, especially my ABS lights. They should come on and shut off, indicating that my ABS, my anti-lock brake system, is properly functioning. So my two ABS lights came on and they came off. While I'm here also, now that I've got the key into run, I can adjust my mirrors, and you want to mention I am properly fitted to the bus. The mirrors are properly adjusted to me. So the next thing I'm going to do is perform a light check. I'm going to ask my examiner, do you mind getting out and checking while I run through my lights? If they don't want to because it's raining or whatever, I can use my front mirrors for all my lights other than the rear, in which case I'm going to have to get up, and I can go right to the back, open my door, and look at them that way, everything other than the brake lights. So I'm going to close my door by switching my switch back to normal. I'm going to close the door. I'm going to start with my running lights by pushing the switch down. Headlights, left directional, right directional, high beams. My hazards, very important that you also check your hazards. So I'm looking in my crossover mirrors now and I can see all my lights. For my side running lights and my directionals on the side of the bus, I can check my number 1 and number 6 flat mirrors. So I'm going to check my ambers, and I'm going to check my reds. When I open my door, my stop sign's going to come on, my crossing arm's going to stick out, and my red lights are going to come on. So I can see my crossing arm, my stop sign, and all that. If your examiner doesn't want to get out now you're going to have to recycle through all those again. Don't forget those brake lights, and have her and check out the back door, or have her check the back of your stop sign first and then to the back. As she comes back onto the bus, I'm going to mention to her my loading lights worked also, including my step loading light. My light indicator panel worked, and that my dash indicators worked also, which would be high beams, directionals, and hazards. Alright, so the very last step of the pre-trip inspection is to perform an air brakes test. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the bus, and I want to listen for a governor cutout. So it's going to sneeze at me between 120 and 140 psi. If the gauge doesn't immediately start moving up, I can stomp on my brakes a couple times, and I can give it a little bit of throttle. Bring it up to high idle, about 1200 RPMs, and it'll start building pressure here very shortly. At some point, remember that you need to turn your wheels straight So I'm going to look in my number 3 and 4 crossover mirrors for my lug nuts, making sure that my tires are straight. So my governor's cut out. Now I'm going to switch the key to off. I'm going to switch it back to run. I'm going to ignore the child check alarm if it's going off on me. And the next step is to perform an applied air brakes test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the parking brake and I'm going to hold down the service brake. Very important that you keep your foot on the service brake this entire time with the parking brake released. Otherwise you're going to rock the bus. And now your tires are going to get jammed up between your chock blocks, which means
please conduct your child search now.
Then when I go out to get my chock blocks, now I'm in trouble. I've got to get back in. I've got to move the bus back an inch forward or 2 inches, whatever, and I'm kind of stuck, and now I'm getting a little flustered. I can ignore that alarm because when I hold down my service brake for about 5 seconds, the alarm's going to automatically shut off. So again, I'm going to perform an applied air brakes test. I'm going to release the parking brake. I'm going to hold down the service brake. Once pressure stabilizes, I should lose no more than 3 psi in 1 minute. So pressure is stabilized. I'm going to start to count. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5, all the way up to 60 seconds. And if your foot gets a little worn out, I can cross my feet to help me put a little bit more pressure on that service brake. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to perform a low air warning systems check. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fan on and off the service brake, and before it reaches 55 psi, I should hear an audible alarm and I should see 2 dash warning lights. Again, prior to reaching 55 psi. There's 1, there's 2, and I hear my audible alarm. The next thing I'm going to do is perform a parking brake check valve test, spring brake valve check. I'm going to continue fanning on and off pressure. Between 20 to 40 psi, my parking brake should apply. It's going to pop out at me. Again, between 20 to 40 psi. Good, now I can finally rest my foot. The next thing I'm going to do is start my bus. And I'm going to perform an air recovery check. What I want is for pressure to build to about 75 psi, and then I'm going to put my foot on the throttle, bring it up to a high idle, which is about 1200 RPM to help it along. I'm going to release that when it reaches about 75 to 80 psi. What I want is for pressure to build from 85 to 100 psi in under 45 seconds.
Please conduct your child search now.
So the 12 o'clock position is about 75 psi. I'm going to release it right about there. And I'm going to start to count. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, 4 1000, 5 1000, 6 1000, 7 1000, 8 1000, 9, 10.
Please
11,
conduct your child search
12,
now.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So 23 seconds, so it's under 45 seconds, so I'm good. The next thing I'm going to do is perform another governor cutout check. So I'm going to give it a little bit of throttle. I want to make sure that it sneezes at me and the governor cuts out between 120 to 140 psi. On this particular bus, it usually cuts out right around 135.
Please conduct your child search now.
I've heard it sneeze and it cut out right about 135. The next thing I'm going to do is I need to remove my chalk blocks for the next part of the test. So I'm going to put the bus into accessory. I'm going to ask the examiner here at first.
Please conduct your child search now.
At first student, we're always taught to take the key with us when we leave the bus, but you're on board. Do you mind keeping an eye on it while I go pull my chalk blocks? No matter what, I'm going to go back to the back. Then I'm going to shut off that child check alarm. Make sure that the alarm doesn't go off on my examiner while I'm outside of the bus.
Child checkmate is now deactivated.
And I'm going to go get my chalk blocks. Using 3-point contact. Usually I like to keep my chalk blocks in the underneath the back seat, but for the purposes of the test, I'm just going to put them here, make it quicker and easier. Alright, so the next part of the test, I'm going to put the bus into run. I'm going to wait for my check engine light to go out. Make sure your door is closed. I'm going to start the bus. I'm going to pull against my parking brake and making sure that it holds. I'm going to shift into gear and I'm going to pull against the parking brake, making sure that it holds. There's no movement, there's no unusual feel. And I'm going to do that twice. Okay, there was no movement and no unusual feel. The next part of the test I'm going to do is I'm going to pull forward. I'm going to check my service brakes. I want to pull forward at about 5 miles an hour. And I'm going to stop twice, making sure that there's no pulling left or right. It stops smoothly. There's no unusual feel. So I'm releasing the parking brake. Hold on. And I'm good. There was no left or right movement, no unusual feel, and it stopped as normal. The very last thing I need to do is pop the bus into reverse. I want to check my backup alarm. And I want to check to make sure my horn works. Okay. Now's the time to really check that checklist. Did I mention everything? Alright, we're good.